All right. Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Back to the Frame Rate, the Cadillac of podcasts, where we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms for your entertainment. I am your host, Nathan Shore, and I'm here with Ellie Escobar and Sam Cole.
Hello.
Hello.
Did you get my reference, everybody?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Oh, I did.
That's good. And I realized I talked over our intro. I'm not going to do it again. That's just part of going live with these things. Well, it's good to be back this week. We are wrapping up our Steven Spielberg Retrospective this episode, which is pretty cool. 5 movies over the course of 5 months, but we knocked them out over the last couple of weeks, which is exciting. We are going to be watching what movie this week, Sam?
So this week we're going to be watching Empire of the Sun, and it comes at a kind of interesting time in Spielberg's career. It's not too many years after Temple of Doom, when he was sort of criticized for being only action adventure, way too over the top. And so this movie came out in 1987 between The Color Purple, which came before it, and was followed by Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when he went back to his kind of action roots. This movie, the screenplay was written by Tom Stoppard, and of note, the cinematography was by Alan Deviow. I'm not quite sure I'm pronouncing his name right. He was the cinematographer on E.T. as well. Not a box office failure, but not a hit, a kind of modest film. Audiences were sort of turned off by the darker tone, but an underrated, interesting Spielberg film that I think I have this right, actually shot in Shanghai, was one of the first films to open in the streets there.
Yeah.
As you see in the main square and the sort of the opening and the bookend of the film. But so also of note, introduced Christian Bale. This is his introduction to Hollywood. And whatever happened to that guy? Did he do anything after this film? Just kidding.
Also of note, this came out the same, I did some research, the same week that Throw Mama from the Train came out and Wall Street.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was his competition.
Interesting week at the movies. I probably would have gone to Wall Street first and seen the second, but I did see this in the theater as a kid. Yeah.
All right. And I just want to also point out that I was a big fan of, I think it's Alan Deview. Is that Deview? He also did Bugsy. And I also was, I went into a deep dive on this. I went on YouTube, and his collaborations go back with Steven Spielberg all the way back to his short film Amblin, maybe even before that. And I watched that short film on YouTube over the weekend. It's really interesting, but it's I wouldn't call it a silent film. It's all told with music, and it just shows how well a storyteller Steven Spielberg is without using any dialogue. So it's an interesting film. I wouldn't say that it's something I need to revisit anytime soon, but it is available on YouTube if you search for Amblin, the 1968 short film, which Alan Deview shot, was the cinematographer on. Interesting.
I love Amblin, actually. It's so creative and just it kind of reminds me. It's not like Duel at all, but it's got that same like bare boards filmmaking greatness to it.
I feel like it was shot like in the same location.
Yeah, exactly.
So very cool. And also this was based on, I don't know if you mentioned, it was based on the novel by J.G. Ballard, which came out just a few years before the movie was produced.
And I think it was J.G. Ballard himself that was a kid in an internment camp. Like he was writing his own experience. Fascinating. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So why don't we get into our thoughts on the film? Who would like to go first? I always ask this. Sam, you always get thrown under the bus.
I would love not to go first this time, but I will go. If anyone else wants to go, please, it'd be an act of mercy.
I mean, I'll even go first if somebody really wants me to.
Nathan, I would be fascinated for you to go first. See you see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, I don't know. This is a new experience for me. I will try my best. I usually kind of
Do it.
springboard off of everyone else's thoughts, but
Do it.
now I will try.
The
So,
force is with you.
okay, I thought this was technically a really solid movie. I think I was going to mention this before we began. All the Oscar nominations that this got: art direction, cinematography, costume design, film editing, original music score, and sound. It won none of these, but all those Oscar nominations, I think, reflect the aptitude that Spielberg has for this type of material. His collaboration with Devu, whom he has worked with, I think, several times before, this shows the confidence and the prowess that he has for epic stories like this. John Williams' score, I think, is excellent in this. It's beautiful. I think it's heartbreaking. I was going to say I was impressed, but I think that's silly to say when it comes to John Williams because he's one of the best. But we've watched a couple of his movies during this retrospective series, which I feel aren't Williams' best. But this score, I think, does a wonderful job with its simplicity in comparison to a film we reviewed a couple weeks back, like Amistad. I think Williams went for more spectacle, but here, similar moments I think are handled much more deftly. I think this film is really good, but not great. And that's because I think the middle section of this film I find to be a bit tedious. And I'll elaborate more on that when we get into a discussion. As I was watching this, I couldn't help but think of David Lean films such as Lawrence of Arabia and another, which I might bring up later. But Spielberg and Devu is lensing in this film is just really gorgeous. I haven't had time to do the research, but if I did, I'm sure I would dig up many interviews and articles that the look of this film was heavily inspired by David Lean films. All the sweeping vistas of the internment camp with hundreds of extras. I mean, I got goosebumps when I saw all those shots of that. I think Christian Bale, this is one of the best performances of a child actor I think I've seen in a long time. One of the best ever. He not only has to play a child several years younger than his age, but also several years older. So there's a lot of really good, really great stuff in this. But I'm going to get into a little bit later with you guys the parts that I didn't like about this, and it's about the middle of this movie. And we'll get into it later. But who would like to follow up after me?
I'll go. No, Nathan, I was just going to say, I definitely agree with you. I would say with the regard to the middle section, I think the film is really good, but uneven. And so at its best, I think it has some of the best moments in any Spielberg movie kind of peppered throughout it. Like when Christian Bale first goes to the internment camp and he sees the plane that he's been like imagining since his youth, and he like embraces the plane, and the Japanese soldiers come up to him and he salutes them and they salute him, and John Williams goes like straight for the heavens, and it's just like, wow, I got the chills in that scene.
I want to get into that relationship he has with the Japanese because it's really fascinating, his admiration for the Japanese army and their culture. It's complicated, but yeah.
It's amazing. And I think going like a bit more into the midsection, like you were talking about, I think once he gets to the internment camp and he's there for a while, the movie, there's just a lot of scenes that sort of come in and out of focus for me. Some are really good character moments. And then there's some moments that are between characters that I sort of don't quite understand as well, but they kind of drag out. And so I feel like the pacing of the film slows down. And although I guess that's the point, like it's sort of showing the tedium and like the repetitive and the kind of nature of life there. I feel like that section of the movie could be tightened a little bit. Overall, despite its unevenness, because I think it sort of aims for the moon, even though it doesn't quite reach there. It's certainly the more like emotionally ambitious of Spielberg projects. And like you said, Christian Bale's performance is so amazing that overall I really enjoy the film, even though it's definitely not without its flaws. But I mean, just because of the other films in the retrospective, like if I had to compare this film to Amistad, even though they're totally different, I would definitely say this is the better of the two films in my opinion. Just be, they don't really have much in connection, but they're like two historical, type in Spielberg's like wheelhouse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Ellie, would you like to share your thoughts?
Well, I'm not technical like you two are about the film. Uh, you guys talk about all like the technical part of the film, so why it's not good, or why it's good, or what's missing, and blah. For me, I look at more of the heart of the film than the technical. I don't really care for the technical. I'm entertained by the film. I obviously loved it more than Duel and Amistad, and the reason I think is because of the the child. First of all, I think it's wrong to see Christian Bale so young in a movie because I've only known Christian as an adult. So it was really shocking for me to see, like, wait. First of all, I never know who's in the movie until I actually watched the film. So even though I knew we were watching this film, I never looked up who were the freaking people in the movie because I don't. I just go see the movie. So I'm like, wait, he looks familiar. And I'm like, wait. And then, because I'm watching it with Carlos, obviously, because he hasn't seen the film. So, like, who does he remind? He goes, that's Christian Bale. That's Christian Bale. I'm like, yeah, oh my God. It's almost wrong to see him so young, but you can see that
It's
he
like
hasn't.
it's like some deep fake thing where they took like Christian Bale's head and put it on a little kid's body or something.
Dude, he
What's
hasn't
fun?
changed. His face hasn't changed. It's still the same.
And he
And
has
I
like certain like childhood things that where he acts where it doesn't connect to his adult self, but then he'll say some lines that
Yeah.
will remind you of his adult self when he's like, Mrs. Selner, play dead, and he's like Master Bruce, It's like,
he's so funny. It was so weird to see him at such a young age. And then I'm trying to figure out when Markovich comes into the picture and he has the hat on, I'm thinking like, wait, who is this guy? Because I don't know who's in the movie. So all of a sudden I'm listening to the voice. I'm like, wait, we're trying to figure out who that guy is. I'm like, who do you think it is under the hat?
So
And
what
we're
are you
like,
doing like during opening credits? Are you getting popcorn or something, or like where are you?
why, they're opening credits?
I don't know.
There's no opening credits in a movie. There's like at the end, that's where the credits are. No, there's no opening credits.
There weren't.
No, at least I didn't
Okay.
see any. I didn't see any, so I didn't know who was in that movie. And then I noticed that, but you saw the
actually, in
guy.
this movie, there really aren't opening credits. It's just
There
the
wasn't.
title followed by that
See?
log line. It's like, and then the Japanese dug in,
Yeah.
and we're waiting
Oh,
for
that's
Pearl
true.
Harbor.
And then there's
yeah.
and there's
I
this
forget.
other
I
guy.
research a movie to death before I
No,
watch it.
I
That's the
don't.
problem.
I don't care. I don't care. I want to just be in the
Okay.
moment. So then
All
there's
right,
that
I'll
other
grant
guy
you that.
that reminds me of Casey Affleck, the other bald guy that's hanging out with Markovich.
Joey
Joey Pants.
Pants. Yeah,
Joey
Like
Pants.
yeah.
What a
totally
surprise.
reminds me of
Casey Affleck.
Casey Affleck. Yeah, I swear. And then there's like Walter Mitty in there too. What's his name?
Oh, we had Ben Stiller in this.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not attracted to Ben Stiller, but Ben
But-
Stiller young? Damn, he's hot. Or was hot. I don't know. He ain't hot anymore, but he was hot then. Anyway, so these films I've been watching lately from Spielberg, they don't have a lot of female characters. It's a lot of male characters in these films.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay. So anyway, but I love the movie. Forget that I don't look at the technical, like I said, but I love the heart of the movie. I love the innocence of this child, how is so there were so many similarities for me. I was, Carlos is sitting next to me and I'm saying why I love this movie is because it reminds me of my own life. Because, I came from a war and around that time, how old is he supposed to be in this movie? 10, 12?
I think starting at like 11 to like 15 or something like
Right.
that.
So like
roughly.
11, 12. So I was about 11, 12 when I realized, because the house that he lives with the pool and everything, I used to live in a house like that. I also had service people that would serve me and like just cook for us and everything. And I went to school and I was ignorant of what was going on in my country with the war at that time. So when you start to realize what's going on, it's how when you lose your parents because your parents have, for me anyway, he lost his parents, right, in the whole process of leaving, trying to live the place. But I lost my parents for a while because they put me in a plane to escape the war too. So it's like all those things that kind of reminded me of my own life, and I really loved that. And so I connected to that part of the movie and to Christian in that, and how, you're so innocent at a certain age, but then you had to grow up really fast because
I, I agree. I think Christian Bale's performance is outstanding, and he's obviously the heart
ascendant.
of this movie. And the two things I mentioned before, is number one, his allegiance to the Japanese is one aspect, but the other thing is that just the maturity that he has to go from. He comes from this innocent child, one that when he's being whisked away when the Japanese are attacking, he goes back for the plane. This is the reason why he gets separated from his parents. That's a
Yeah,
decision that a child would make,
yeah,
and he has to come so far in this to become a young man in
a
this, and you
man.
see that. And
Yeah.
as much as I found like the middle part of this tedious, I do appreciate the journey that he is on in this, and
That
it is
process.
heartfelt, and it's harrowing.
And he
um
goes from that young kid so innocent to becoming a hustler for food, for to
mm,
survive, you
That's what
know
I like. I love seeing how creative he gets in his survival, and
yeah.
how he loves keeping himself like insanely busy at the internment camp. And like for me, even though I'm drawn to like technical things because I'm fascinated by them, even in spite of some of those technical things that I mentioned, the reason I actually do like this movie a lot, is because of the emotion behind it and the childlike like loss of innocence. There's a scene towards the beginning when he like wanders out into the field away from that costume party, and he like flies his like kite like toy plane, and he
Mm,
sees the ruins of an actual plane, and like it's his dream to fly, and like that gave me chills. And like I think moments like that centered around his character work incredibly well. And then there's other little moments for some reason in the movie that I find gimmicky, like the opening shot of like coffins and like a boat pushes it away. I got it, and I mean it's good. It was just kind of like overt or something, but but the good outweighs the bad in terms of all the emotion and the story. And like you're saying, Ellie, his journey is incredible. Like I tear up when he's like walking through the river at the end, and the food comes down from the sky, like, and
mm.
he's like so overwhelmed. I feel like I'm like 12 when I watch
I
that scene, you know, like,
know.
I
yeah.
agree.
There was parts also of the movie that there's a, when he goes, flies the plane, and he goes and the soldiers come up and they tell him, don't run, don't run, right? They say,
Yes.
don't run. So it's funny because he's fascinated by this. But I remember being 12 years old in my country, and I was fascinated by the rebels, and being so innocent about the war and what it meant. I would run towards the rebels and talk to them. And then my cousin, who was older, will grab me by the hand and say, "Stop talking to them. Don't go there." And I'd be like, "Why not?" And it's like, because if the guards see you talking to the rebels, they're going to put you in jail because they'll think you're a rebel or
Mm.
Wow. Yeah.
sympathize. So it was kind of like there was so many connections for me to this movie that I just simply loved.
Mm.
Every little detail I kept watching is like, oh, that's like my house. Oh, that's like the pool. Oh my god! And then it was just great. I loved it.
So I will say what I did want to mention. I do appreciate a lot of this movie, but I want to mention why I found the middle part of this tedious. Um, I think the fact that this is a PG-13 movie um, kind of handcuffed uh, the movie, Spielberg, a little bit, because he couldn't show us the true hellishness of the world of the internment camp. I feel it's muted.
Mm.
I think that he would return to these themes of the horrors of war in a much less sugar-coated manner in films like Schindler's List and even like Saving Private Ryan to a degree. And I find those movies a lot more effective because of that. All the time in the internment camp, as much as they're great character growth for what Jamie goes through, it's it's kind of it's like episodes of of his these moments of maturity. But like I said, for some reason I found it tedious and not. I don't know. I feel like it could have shown the horrors of war a lot more because I don't know how else to really explain it. It felt like I was watching a PG version of what
Well,
was really going
maybe
on
maybe
there.
he wasn't. Maybe his point wasn't to show the horror of the war as much as to show the innocence and the journey of the
Well,
boy.
that's fine, and that's the choice. I'm just saying that it's I don't know. I feel like it wanted me to feel that.
I know what you're saying, and see one interesting thing too about that movie, and Spielberg. There's like a making of documentary about it where he's consulting with the author of the book that he wanted to sort of tonally go between reality and sort of the kid's fantastical view of things.
Yeah.
And so the movie kind of goes into that dreamlike, surreal quality of like misery and happiness and fatigue, like when they walk into the giant stadium with all the furniture in it,
Yeah.
and then he sees the car. And then that's an actual place, a specific name. My mind is just blanking on it at the moment. But I feel like tonally in other scenes of the movie, that approach, whereas that kind of sort of fantastical childlike wonder is more successful. And for me, in the internment camp, I feel the same thing that you're feeling, Nathan. I just think it just falls a little bit flat, where it's like scenes of episodes and there's growth. And yes, he goes out into the field past the barrier and gets the thing, and the soldier doesn't see him. But I found that scene relatively unsuspenseful. And also the fact, how did that Japanese soldier not see him? Just because of the nature of that camera angle, he's in like 3 blades of grass on the
I
guy's
know.
right.
What
I
was that?
always
Was
had a
that?
problem with it. I'm
Wait,
like, I would see that guy, you know?
was,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that
sorry, it's so loud. I'm sorry. But
was that scene supposed to be suspenseful? Because to me, that scene was funny.
I thought it
Not
was.
I
suspenseful.
It
agree.
was
I
not.
did
It was
not feel
whimsical, or it's just kind of like, you know, like
it goes
that's
on for a while too. And it did not build up the suspense I think it was trying to do.
I almost feel in a strange way, and I could be entirely wrong, that in some way in this film that Spielberg, because he's younger when he's directing this, equates serious moments to just letting things play out and linger. Because a lot of in his blockbuster movies, things are a lot tighter, and there are character scenes in this movie where these moments play out and they play out and they play out, when it's like Jim and the British couple and the doctor that really aren't handling the internment camp life well.
Mm.
And some of those scenes, I'm just like, this is just like, it just feels like dead air time to me. I know that's being a little critical, but that's just an observation. I don't think that's how Spielberg thinks, obviously, but I know what you mean. It is specifically that section, because I love the third act and the first
Well,
act.
I
When
don't
the
see
Japanese
that,
invade
but
Shanghai, it's amazing. But I totally hear you, Ellie. I can see being involved
I
in like,
I
I'm
don't.
glad it worked. It's just the
I was
technical. Yeah,
just too involved in the heart of the story and the kid and the
that's awesome.
the fantasy world that Spielberg brought me to, because I feel like if we know anything about the life of Spielberg when he was young, we know that he would fantasize, and this is why he creates so many great stories and films, right? Because he grew up imagining things, right? Playing with his toys and thinking, creating stories. And I'm thinking like Empire of the Sun, as much as it is shows you the history of that period, he added his signature fantasy about him. I feel, that I can see that childlike of Spielberg in the movie for me. So
I love it when he's like in his bed at night and he looks up and he sees all the toy planes like just on the ceiling, and like
I
John Williams' music cue is
feel like that's
Nathan. Yeah,
Spielberg.
and it's totally Spielberg. And Nathan, this movie is buoyed for me by John Williams' score.
Mm.
Excellent score. It's that rich. Some of Williams' other score and later Spielberg's movies they're like harder to distinguish from each other, but this one is just like goes for the gold emotion epic. Just
Yeah.
pulls out the like.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of emotion watching this movie. That's why I like
Yeah.
it so much, because I connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple other things I want to just throw out there and see what you guys have any thoughts on. I love the opening of this film. I want to go back to the beginning for a second. I think it really sets the stage well. How it shows the disparity of the statuses between the wealthy, the British, and the poor, and none more obvious than when they are going through all the costume party and they're going through all those military checkpoints. Shanghai
Right.
was a very cosmopolitan city, it appears, with nightclubs and casinos and theaters.
Kind of like Cuba back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I love that scene where they're in that car and people are and there's somebody that has like this like chicken on a stick or something like that, and it slams in, and the window gets all bloody afterwards. I thought it was incredible filmmaking, that whole scene with the riot like outside of the car. Another thing I really wanted to. Oh, here's what I wanted to ask you guys. I don't really know what I thought about John Malkovich in this movie. He kind of befuddled me. Like, I'm kind of lukewarm on his character as Bassie in this, and to a lesser degree his sidekick, Frank Joey Pants in this. I guess they're like thieves. They're on the run from the Japanese after the invasion, and he kind of seems like a super cool guy in the beginning, but he's got the hat and the glasses, but in the end, he's really just kind of this middle-aged balding guy. I think maybe at one time Jamie kind of looked up to him, but his relationship with Bassie is so confusing to me. And really, ultimately, what do you think was the goal and the message that we were supposed to get out of that relationship?
What I think for me personally, the message there was, and I actually liked John Malkovich in it. Like it's a different role for him.
Me too.
I enjoyed him a lot in it. I think that Christian Bale was kind of clinging on to him as like a father figure and like someone to look up to, and like, I got to connect with this guy. And I think that John Malkovich, his character was always the way he was. He looks out for himself. He's not a bad guy. He's not a great guy. He genuinely likes the kid. You know that. He uses him when he needs to, but he's, just kind of selfishly doing his thing. And I think that so his character doesn't have an arc. He's like consistent throughout. And I think that part of Christian Bale's arc in his loss of loss of innocence is that he realizes John Malkovich is just kind of this like pirate. Let me take advantage of the situation. And when he kills the Japanese pilot, who's his friend at the end, there's a great moment where John Malkovich looks at him and he smiles because he's almost kind of proud of Christian Bale for standing up for himself. He's like, okay, kid, you want to go your own way? I respect that. All good, man. He's like, then he throws him the candy bar and dries off. So I think the relationship is like, they just kind of use each other and need each other a little bit, but it's just like, it's a war. It's one of those strange, like, relationships in war that otherwise wouldn't happen if there was no reason for them to connect.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I kind of feel the same way. I think for me it was more of a, I thought he was more of a mentor to Christian in a way of survival, because if Christian is looking up to this man who is able to grab food, which is very important at that time, at that moment, it's just you basically just looking to eat something, right? To have something to eat, and this guy knows how to manipulate and move through the system to survive. And I think Christian is kind of like, that's my mentor. I'm gonna watch him to do everything. And at one point, yeah, he thinks it's his friend, but remember, he's I don't think Markovich is not his friend, really. He's just there for the moment, living in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't he certainly likes Christian Bale, but he's not like attached to him. He's like, oh, this kid amuses me,
Yeah.
Just want to throw this out there. Jamie's admiration of the Japanese, their culture, their military history. I don't know. I found that another very fascinating aspect of this. Why that is. I mean, he is a Brit living in Shanghai. Why do you think he has such admiration for the Japanese? Their planes, what is it, do you think?
I think I don't think it's like I don't think he has admiration for them on like a deep cultural level in terms of like knowing a lot about them because he's a little kid,
Hmm.
even though he's a smart little kid. I think it's more he's just it is in awe of their like discipline and their
Mm.
planes and their pilots, and there's like this regimented force to them, and they seem powerful to him, and he loves planes, and they're like amazingly like like focused pilots. Like
I
there's
think
Because
there's
you're
something.
right
if
Yeah,
you
because
remember,
because isn't it the Americans that have their plane that is the Cadillac of the sky, which he finds just as
yeah,
exciting.
I think
yeah,
for him
Yeah,
it's the planes. He likes planes, and
yeah.
I don't. I'm with Sam. I don't think he understands the culture or has fascination towards the culture. It's like
It's a
and it's
respect, though. I feel like it's interesting because when he's
he
he
does connect with something about like there's something there. Yeah,
it's but there's when he's in the internment camp, he's growing, he's maturing, but there's something really fascinating about how he when other prisoners are getting in trouble with the Japanese, he does some incredible things. Like he knows how to diffuse situations, and I don't know if it's laced with some Stockholm syndrome, but he spends the entire movie surrendering to his oppressors, to violent men. And I just found, this is like in his DNA. He's constantly surrendering and giving
yes,
and that's a theme throughout this whole thing. And I actually want to transition now to the end of this, because that is something. Now when we get to the end of this movie, he actually said, and at one point he actually says, I forget who it was, that he can't remember what his parents look like. Um, and
yes, he's saying that to the doctor who's like,
yes,
"Get Jim, get off the roof."
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, what a scene that was! Where he's so at the end of this movie, he's reunited with his parents, and his mom is he's embracing her, or but he doesn't even know
I like that he
what to
looks right.
do.
His dad walks right past him, and it's like,
Yeah,
and he looks right at him. He doesn't recognize it's him. Like, yeah,
right. The whole movie, he's surrendering to his oppressors, to violent men, and at this moment, he doesn't know how to surrender to safety and nurturing. And it's like the opposite. And he doesn't know what to do. And that final shot of him looking over the shoulder of his mom in his eyes, I just got the biggest chills of that. It's one of the greatest moments I've seen in a Spielberg movie. I would say that final moment. He doesn't know how to give in. He doesn't know what to do in that moment. It's incredible. He
it's
doesn't know how.
amazing. And then when he like,
He has the moment to rest and submit finally for the first time in like 4 years, and he's
but
paralyzed by it.
remember he's been through a lot of
I
trauma,
know.
and
Oh,
so the fact that he doesn't
it's
remember
so
what his
sad.
parents look like, and all of a sudden your parents are in front of you, you're gonna be a bit like it's gonna take you a while to warm up to them. I
Oh
feel so.
yeah.
I
and I know
think
what you mean. Like, no, exactly. And I love that moment where he closes his eyes because it's like finally he can just like surrender to like peace. But I love how it's his
I don't know,
mother.
but it feels sort of almost ambiguous though. Like,
Yeah, it's like ambiguous, but like even if it's not like deep peace, it's just the fact that his eyes close. To
yeah,
me, I see that as him like
honest,
lowering his guard because he's being
honest,
embraced. Yeah.
I felt like he just wanted to continue to live in the camp rather than surrender to his parents.
yeah. I'm not sure.
I think he was happy
I
where
think
he
that,
was, where
I
he's
think
been.
there's a I mean, like, I want to think that like he is giving in to the embrace, but I'm looking at it like, is he there?
No, he's
Is he
not.
accepting it? I'm not 100% sure, and
No,
I
because
like the fact that I'm questioning what is the authenticity of that,
It's
of the
ambiguous,
embrace
and
of
I
that.
just like the fact that his mother was the first to recognize him, and I love the moment where she turns and sees him, and just the look in her eye, like that she knows it's him
Yeah,
instantly
yeah.
without saying anything, and I just thought that was brilliant, and like,
because a
yeah,
mother always knows
exactly. A mother always knows, and of course, because this is a Steven
more
Spielberg
than a
film,
dad.
the
A
mother
dad,
knows, and the father
yeah,
just like
no, no,
walks
no.
right by. He's like, "Take
It's
that,
like
Dad. I'm
no,
still upset." Yeah,
it's like that anyway. A dad will miss so many things about their child, but the mama, she always knows, and you know why? Because we got that kid in that stomach for 9 months. You guys don't do that.
Exactly. And but it's just amazing that like she know it just that intuitive moment. I love that whole scene.
Yeah.
I wish that this is so obnoxious to me. I wish that scene is so powerful. This like buoyant, loud credit music comes on right after that, and it's like no, 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 no,
You
no.
know,
And
you
I wish
know,
it was like stayed with. It's like no, let me like linger in this feeling for a
you
minute.
know
Yeah,
what
That's just me
Spielberg,
being
you know what
nitpicky because I'm a technical
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Spielberg should do another movie with Christian, now grown up, riding on, on a plane. Um, yeah, like a part two of Empire of the Sun with him now adult.
He can make a really like, or he could do that, or he could go the opposite route, make a really cheesy movie where it's a sequel where like Christian Bale is in his like 80s in the 19, or he's like he's an older man in the 80s, in the 1980s. He's not that old yet, but he goes back to where the internment camp was and like starts like an arcade like video game
Yeah,
like
no,
company. And it's
Sam,
like,
no, that's not gonna work.
that's why I'm talking about it, because it will never happen
No,
and it shouldn't
that's
happen.
not
That's
what
I
I'm
like to
talking
think of
about.
things that are terrible, but yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
all right. I think we're pretty good with our discussion of Empire of the Sun. But before we wrap up and close the book on this discussion, very important thing we have to address.
Something in this field could be releasing the chemical into the air when there's too many of us together. Don't eyeball me, boy. I see your mother driving up and down the street looking at me. I'll be your stepfather by the week.
It's a bad time, Bob.
I'm serious. If I leave now, I'm not coming back.
You ever hear the expression, you got a phase only a mother can love?
Let's just stay ahead of the wind.
That is our bumper for our Mark Wahlberg segment called Wahlberg on Wahlberg, where we recast somebody from the movie with Mark Wahlberg. Not as that many choices in this film. Well, there are a lot of supporting characters, but who would you recast in this movie with Mark Wahlberg to improve it, or maybe not improve it?
I would definitely recast the young, like either the teenage Japanese pilot that's Christian Bale's friend on the other side of the fence, except it's Mark Wahlberg. But he just adds a little bit ad lib dialogue, like, "Hey, dude, I know it's tough, but hang in there." That's who I'd cast him as. That's what came to mind first. It'd be sad though, because spoiler alert, that character gets shot, and I just picture like Mark Wahlberg would be like, what the F? Like, oh, they're just kind of trying to like give him like a freaking, what was it, a lemon or an orange?
Mango.
A mango. Yeah. What, guys? Oh,
It's a really slow death, I guess.
yeah.
Ellie, would you
yeah.
like to participate?
I don't know, man. I can't think of any. Maybe the Japanese general. I don't know.
Sure.
You know what line the Japanese general would as Mark Wahlberg, when he walks up to the kid and he's like, "You are a troublesome boy," or he says some line like that before like all the people part and he walks through them and gets on that like little tram thing to lead them out of there. That scene I thought was way overdone, by the way, just in my opinion. He's like undisciplined, but Mark Wahlberg saying that line would sound funny.
Yeah, there you go.
Only it's tough to recast anybody in this movie because I think everyone does actually a really good job in this.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with Joey Pants. I mean, I love him, but he really doesn't do all that much in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think for such a talented actor that he is, he could have brought more of his personality into that role. And because of that, I think Mark Wahlberg could bring a lot to that side character, the sidekick to John Malkovich's character in that. I would love to see John Malkovich and Mark Wahlberg as a tandem.
I agree. Poor Joey Pants, and like Joey had worked with Spielberg on The Goonies because Spielberg produced The Goonies. You thought he would have more to do. I guess he was, but I noticed in the credits, they have like the main actors, their names appear by themselves, and then it goes to like two names at a time.
Yeah.
That was Joey was in the like two names at a time section, and I thought, I thought he was. I mean, that's not that that's a bad thing, but no big deal. But you're right, he just didn't have that much to do. He was just always like he was always on the sidelines, and his character was like, I'm upset at Christian Bale for taking my food. I'm upset at Christian Bale for taking my bed. This guy's interfering with my bro. And that was him. Yeah.
Better with Wahlberg in that role. That's nice. All right. So there we have it. That is our segment on Wahlberg. But we have our next segment is pretty exciting because we are now wrapped up our Steven Spielberg retrospective. We are going to do our Steven Spielberg retrospective awards. We are going to list off our best actor, best actress, which is not going to be that easy for this one.
Like how do you rate best actress?
We're just going to do it.
This film had actresses.
That's a really true important point. It's hard. There's like supporting characters, but
best supporting actor or actress. We're not going to, because there aren't that many.
Yeah.
And best score, best scene, and best picture. Best scene could be wide open, like best shot, best scene, whatever you want it to be, like best moment from any of the 5 movies that we had. I'll leave that open to your interpretation. So, is everybody ready to begin?
Yay.
Okay.
Rockin' radical.
All right. So we're going to start off with, how about we start off with best actor? All right. And Ellie, why don't you go first? Who was your best actor in our, by the way, I'll just do a quick recap. The movies that we watched in our Spielberg retrospective was Always and War of the Worlds, Duel, Amistad, and Empire of the Sun. This is the pool of movies that we are choosing from.
5 films. That's 5. Yeah.
Just 5.
Christian Bale, best actor.
Best actor was Christian Bale. Why was that your pick?
Because he just does an excellent job. He's such a great actor. He just is. That's it.
Okay.
He does a great job in Empire of the Sun. And I love to work with him.
All right. Excellent.
If you're hearing, I love to work with you, Christian Bale.
Sam.
Yes, so absolutely. So, by the way, when you said that, I'd love to work with Christian Bale, I was about to, Ellie, I was about to like go into his like behind the scenes rant when he was like, and I was like, no. Anyway. 2009, long time ago. He is a great actor. Christian, I'm sorry, I would like to work with you too. You're amazing. Okay. So yeah, honestly, I picked the same. I picked Christian Bale, best actor, and I know he's a child, but for me, the reason is because his character has such a huge arc, and such a journey, and as a child, he shows that transformation, and he shows the range and depth of an adult actor, like in a child's body, and it's like almost kind of uncanny because it's like his talent is exceptional.
It's like
he feels like it's like miniature. He's like Christian Bale from like 2020, and he was like miniaturized by like Zelensky's shrinking machine from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and like now it's him. Like that's why he's so good.
Listen, you can train an actor, and an actor can train, but some actors it's innate.
He just has it.
They have it, they just have it.
He just has it, and his performance is incredible. And like of note, Nathan, and you'd mentioned this, you'd mentioned Tom Cruise like playing a regular guy in War of the Worlds, and like I did really like his performance in that. For me, best actor just goes to Christian Bale because of the intensity of like what he did. It was impressive.
And as a child,
it's just amazing. Yeah,
crazy.
And that's that was his introductory movie. Like that's
Like,
the movie that he gets introduced to audience. It's like, oh, by the way, this kid who's got some chops. Like, damn.
Well, I am going to break from the pack, even though it was I really did debate between Christian Bale, and this you could argue might be a supporting role, but I thought Djimon Hounsou from Amistad was the best thing I saw in any of these movies that we saw. I think he was incredible. His performance as Cinque was intense. He was the leader of the Africans who were enslaved and led the uprising on the boat. His physicality, the intensity, his eyes. He doesn't speak a lick of English in the entire movie. His entire performance is spoken in Mehndi. Like I said in our review back then, I just wish more of the movie was about him and his struggle. I wanted more of him. Yeah, I think he was the
Yeah.
best part of the movie. And
He is an incredidible actor. Just
there's not a weak moment of the movie when he's featured in it. So it was a coin toss, honestly, between both of them. He probably could even be a supporting actor in it, but I think that he commands the movie every moment of it, and it's about him. It really is. So that's why I went with him as best actor. So let's go on to best actress, and there are a ton of options here. So I'm really curious what we go with.
Since I didn't have too much to pick, I just picked Miranda Richardson.
No way. Me too. Sorry.
But if you think about it, how many actresses do we have to pick from? And she did a great job.
She did. Her performance is memorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean to speak at the same time as you, but I'm
No.
on the exact same.
She was like, I felt like in a way she was a mom away to Christian, but also the way that Christian will learn about women in itself because they live right next to each other. So, like there was a moment in that scene where, he's watching what's happening between the woman and a man. And I think she served as entrance to sexuality, I guess. So.
And you could really tell the toll that the war takes on her as the movie goes on.
Absolutely.
Her level of suffering and malnutrition, it just seems so real that's why she came up in my head, because it was just memorable to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Anyone want to take a guess at mine?
No. Oh my God, Miranda Richardson.
No.
Oh God.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I went with Holly Hunter as Dorinda, which I think she's so amazing. And I think it's complex, and she's vulnerable, but also strong-willed and independent. I love her in this movie, and her friendship with John Goodman's character as Al.
Did you give best supporting actor to the other guy in that love triangle? The worst actor in Always.
No. I really think she's incredible, portraying a woman who must evolve from mourning the death of Pete, Richard Dreyfuss's character, to finding the strength to move forward in her life. I think it's a fully fleshed out character. I still have a place in my heart for Dorinda in Always.
She did do a good job. It's that's true.
It's the only one that I felt was a real leading actress role in any of these movies that I really could grab onto.
It's interesting that Always came after Empire of the Sun, because you feel like Always would be a movie that he would make several years before Empire of the Sun. It just random observation there.
All right, let's get to best supporting actor or actress. We could go either way with this. Ellie.
Malkovich.
John Malkovich. All right.
Mm-hmm. I really like Malkovich. I love his work. I'm a fan of his work. He annoys me, but I'm a fan of his work. His voice annoys me. His face annoys me, but he's a great freaking actor. You gotta give him the credit. I'm sorry.
He is an amazing actor.
Yes. So yeah.
All right, Sam.
So I went for some low-hanging fruit, which, by the way, on 89.7 on NPR, they were talking. Jim Browdy they're talking about catchphrases that people use in the office place that they find the most annoying, and low-hanging fruit was on the top of the list, but I'm going to use it anyway. I'm going to go with Anthony Hopkins in Amistad, and I know that's kind of a bit of a sort of on the nose obvious choice, but his speech does impress me at the end, and I know it's Oscar bait, but it did make an impression, and I do like him in that film, in spite of some of the downfalls of the movie, but I'm going to have to go with him on that one, because he's just a strong performance.
Yeah, he is. I had to say yeah.
All right.
Oh God.
And as to Jimon Hansu, like he was up for Best Actor, and Christian Bale, that was a narrow thing. But I agree, Nathan. He's not. He could be a supporting actor in Amistad, but he's like more than a supporting actor. So it's like
Yes.
it's hard to
Well, Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for a movie he was only in 12 minutes of, right?
right.
So I mean, Hansu was in more of that movie than 12 minutes. So, anyways, my best supporting actor or actress is John Goodman in Always.
Oh my god.
I don't
I
think
can't even remember that movie. Okay.
you don't have to.
I fell asleep through it.
John Goodman in Always supplies not just great comic relief, but I think he's always the loyal and supportive friend to the main characters, Pete and Dorinda. What I like about his performance is this film is that he just brings a humanizing presence and a down to earth essence. What I think is what this film needs. Otherwise, I think we would get lost in the sappy ghost love triangle. I just find his performance just endearing and charming. And I think he steals every scene that he's in. We had an interesting discussion about this film and many of its pitfalls, but John Goodman had nothing to do with the problems of this movie. And he's one of the biggest reasons why I adore this film. So, John Goodman. There you have it.
I hear that. Yeah.
Gauntlet thrown.
I hear that.
All right. Now, looking forward to this one. Best score. Ellie, do you have a preference in best score?
Wait.
Music for any of the movies.
Yeah, it's the guy that the Empire of the Sun. What's his name?
John Williams for Empire.
Yes.
Yeah, he did like 4 of these movies. So John Williams will win this.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah. I'm gonna spoil mine as well. Mine is also Empire of the Sun.
As is mine.
Yeah.
And I just because literally with the other, like Duel is good, it's more elemental. Amistad, like you said, decent score, but I'm not even War of the Worlds.
I don't remember
War of the Worlds score fine. Always score not bad. It's just Empire of the Sun. If there was a mountaintop with like Raiders of the Lost Ark and like the Empires and the Jaws, like Empire of the Sun score is like on a lower slope of the top mountain, like it's up there,
a little below that, but it's
below that, but it's on the upper
tier. I mean, I never really listened to it before, but I was really, really impressed. Yeah. All right, so we're all in have synchronicity on that. How about this one? Best scene, shot, moment, whatever you want it to be.
Bar scene in Duel. Oh, yes.
The bar scene in Duel.
I had a feeling you were going to say that for some reason.
I considered that.
Loved it. I freaking loved it. It's just that moment where it just took me there. And I'm trying to guess. Looking at the boots. It's him. No, it's him. And then the eyes. And then, oh my God, it was just nuts in my head. So I loved it.
And I like his voice. It's like, you just don't know.
Yes, that's my favorite scene. So,
I would say for me personally, and I want to make this clear, of these 5 Spielberg movies, obviously that's what we're contained to, because this is not my favorite scene in a Spielberg movie, but of these 5, favorite scene, favorite moment for me, I would have to say, is in Empire of the Sun when Christian Bale first arrives at the internment camp. And it's this, first it starts like a close-up on the truck. He gets out, he goes up over a hill, and all of a sudden you see this huge view of all the workers, I think in like the salt rock mines, like just slaving away. And he goes through that chaos, and then he finds a plane in the midst of that, and it's being worked on. So like sparks are flying through the sky from like a welding torch, and it's like ethereal looking and dreamlike. And he like encounters the plane of his dreams, and then 3 Japanese soldiers approach him, and you think, oh my God, they're going to shoot him or something bad's going to happen. But he turns around and salutes them. And with like perfect discipline, the 3 of them salute him, and like John Williams music just like soars. That moment to me is like top Spielberg emotion moment. I love it. Absolutely love it. one of the reasons that it like that moment elevates that film for me, because it just has scenes like that peppered throughout it. That's why I like Empire of the Sun so much.
Great pick, Sam. My best scene is also from Empire of the Sun. Your pick was great, and I could have easily gone with that, but I did go with the final scene in the movie where he is reunited with parents, and that shot where he is reunited with his parents, and the whole sequence where the mom finds him and he's hugging, and she's hugging him, and his eyes, and he doesn't know what to do. That I just completely lost it at that moment there, where the ambiguity of it. I think it's not just how beautifully it was shot. It's just the emotion of that scene. It's doing so much. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that moment. So that was my scene of the retrospective by far. So a lot of
God.
great
Great
moments.
scene,
I
yeah.
could have gone with, yeah, great. So finally,
I thought you were gonna say always in the paradise eating scene.
Wait, Ellie, did we do your favorite scene moment?
Yeah,
Yes, you
I told
do.
you,
The
bar
bar scene.
scene.
Oh my God, that's right. I thought you were joking. I'm so sorry.
No, that was mine.
honestly,
That
I
is a good
thought
scene. I'm
about
so
that.
sorry. I totally,
No, that's my favorite
I
part.
think
that is a good scene. I actually like that scene.
It
Yeah.
just it had me going. I'm looking at the boots. I'm like, is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Oh my God, no. Oh, it just, yeah.
You
I
got into the
think-
character's headspace.
If
Yeah.
the bar scene were 25% shorter, it may have actually inched its way into the top spot. I
And then
love
he
the
orders
tension of
the
that.
cheese sandwich.
On RYE, rye.
All
boy.
right. Gross. Okay.
I just love it when he picks out the Randy. He's like, I want you to cut it out. And the guy's eating the sandwich. Cut what out?
All right. Finally, best picture. Ellie, what is your movie of the retrospective?
Empire of the Sun.
Would you like to say?
Sorry.
Wait, why?
Christian
Why?
Bale.
There's probably no more that we have to say about it. But yes,
Okay,
that is your
why
pick,
did
Empire
I
of the Sun.
pick Empire
Yes.
of the Sun as my best picture?
Yes,
Because
yes.
I connected to it for so many levels, especially me coming from a war, being 11, 12, the same age that he is in that movie, and so many similarities. It had heart for me. This film, yeah.
Great. Sam.
So you guys might be surprised to hear this. I love Empire of the Sun. It's probably the richest movie, definitely the richest film of the time.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah. No. Hey, close second, but just kidding. Best picture, maybe a surprise, but I would have to say Duel for me is the best picture, because it is such an elemental exercise in spectacular suspense. It's one of Spielberg's first, feature efforts. It's perfectly paced. It's Hitchcockian. To me, it's just like pure visceral filmmaking that it just hooks me every time I see it. And so for me, that has the edge over Empire of the Sun, just because the technical filmmaking, the suspense it creates, and the simplicity of the story, and the fact that all it is a guy on a highway with a truck after him, and he manages to tell a compelling 90-minute story out of that, blows me away. I just think the filmmaking is like virtuoso, amazing filmmaking from like a 20-something Spielberg. That's what gives it the edge for me. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that film, but I didn't. I found it more funny than suspenseful.
Yeah, but it's like action adventure suspense. It's
Action
not like
is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fun. It's like,
Fun
oh my God.
action.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And watching him flip out is Dennis Weaver when he gets stressed is great. Yeah.
So awesome.
So yeah, that's me. That's me. Duel best picture. Sammy C. Duel.
So I wasn't sure about what I was going to go with for a while, and I was thinking, do I go with my heart or my head?
Always is where your heart lies. Always.
Ultimately, I went with what did I have the most fun with? And I can't deny that from the moment the movie started to the last second, I had a grin from ear to ear watching Duel. And the movie was taut and suspenseful, and it was masterfully shot and edited. It is a minimalist masterpiece is how I think I
Yeah.
would put it. And as I
Yeah.
said last week, it makes me want to make more movies. And that is my pick. So Duel.
Keep them simple.
Yeah.
Love it.
Minimalist masterpiece. I love that. That's
Yeah.
that's the way to describe that movie.
Yeah. So that is our little award ceremony. And eventually, I sent an email to Mr. Spielberg for him to come and pick up, and Mr. Williams for them to pick up their awards. They're on my back shelf over here, and I'll let you know when they show up to pick up their awards. All right. So let's move on to our recommendation shelf.
Sir,
What?
are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
All right. This week on our recommendation shelf,
Was that Gosling?
Gosling? What?
Who was that? Was that Gosling talking?
Okay,
at
first
the
of all,
end?
it's from the movie Clerks. It's the second week in a row, you people. Oh my God. Okay. That's Randall. All right. In the movie Clerks. Have you seen Clerks?
Yes.
Ellie?
A long time ago. I
Okay.
don't. Not a fan of it.
Okay. Anyways. Everyone shut their mouth. All right. We're going to get to our recommendation shelf, which is prison camp films. Tie into this week's theme. And who would like to begin with their recommendation? Sam. No, Ellie. Is Ellie?
I was gonna do it.
Ellie, you go ahead.
You go ahead, Ellie.
All right. I watched The Way Back, and not the Ben Affleck The Way Back Home.
Oh,
But
the
it's-
Peter Weir. Wow, cool.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Peter Weir. It's on Amazon Prime and Apple, and every other whatever. But anyway, loved it. I. Why do I recommend this movie? Well, one is based on a true story, right? These 6 men set out to escape their prison back when in 1938. In 1938, right? And they were held hostage by the Russians, and was it Russians? I don't even know. Basically, the point of this, the heart of the movie for me is to watch the 6 men survive through harsh weather, cold weather, then desert weather, heat, then forest, no food, barely any food. Whatever they found, like they'll eat maggots or whatever, a snake, fish, whatever they could find, they would eat. Very limited amounts of water. In the winter, great, they could boil the water, the ice, but then in the desert, just the truth is supposedly it's a true story of these 6 men that set out to escape. They wanted freedom, and staying in the camp was worse than what they could face out there. So they did it, and in a way, they found another walker, a girl that had escaped too, and she joins them, and it's just. The cinematography of this film is amazing. I just love
Yes.
the shots, every shot, the mountains. These men walked 4,000 miles. 4,000 miles, 4 different countries to get to India. And I
And
just
what's like so cool about that is like, because I love, the only reason I love the director, like Peter Weir, and he was talking in an interview. He said they escaped from their prison, and he said, but the real prison is the landscape they have to go through because it's so harsh. So they may be free, but the real challenge just begins, and it's amazing cinematography.
But who walks $4,000, 4 different countries in that atmosphere? And I just, it just gave me like this I don't know, it's the will to live and to survive. And I felt every inch of that movie. I felt the cold, I felt the heat, I felt the thirst, the hunger. Oh my god, I just felt everything, and the mountains, everything was so beautiful. And it was such a winning moment at the very end when they finally get to India, and the
Yes.
main character finally gets to his wife, who, by the way, wife has given him away. um she was tortured, and that's how he ended up in prison, because the wife kind of told the people, told the guards that her husband was a spy, and that's why he ended up in that prison.
Hmm.
And he needed to get to his wife, um so that she could forgive herself for putting him in jail, because he knew that she could never do that. But
Wow.
just the whole journey was so beautiful. And how, who's in this movie is
It's a huge cast in this.
oh
As
my
you were
god,
talking,
yeah, yeah,
this
it's like
is I gotta see this.
beautiful cast all together. And I just love how every
Yeah,
character
Jim
has
Sturgis, Colin Farrell, Ed Harris, Saoirse Ronan. This is great. Mark
yeah,
Strong.
yeah, honestly,
I missed this. I
yeah,
really missed this one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
Peter
love
Weir.
Saoirse Ronan. Wasn't she in Peter
She's young.
Jackson's The Lovely Bones?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, love that film. Yeah.
She's great. She's great. The whole movie is just, it's got heart. Is You feel for every single character, not just one character, but every one of those men you feel for, because they're all fighting. And then, at the very end, only 3 out of the 7 made it into India.
Wow.
And it's supposed to be a true story. So
It's
just
been a
imagine
while
that.
since I've seen it. I remember really enjoying it, and I like that director so much. I could be wrong, but I don't think Peter Weir has directed any features recently.
That
I
was
don't
his last
think
one
so.
because I
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
think
2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But I
God,
love
I
the
wish he'd
movie.
made
I
more.
I recommend it, if you, especially if you like war movies and prison camps, and just it teach for me, it was a lesson in that, here we are, we complain about any little thing, and yet this 6 men, a true story, went through all of this and survived. I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
It's like the enduring human spirit,
I'm
what are we
telling you.
capable of? Make great things.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, what are you recommending this week?
So this is a movie that I like. I don't love it, but it's pretty good, and it stars ties in it actually stars Christian Bale. It's called Rescue Dawn, and it's directed, interestingly enough, by Werner Herzog. And this movie fascinates me because it came out in 2006, and it's pretty much for the most part, a straightforward studio picture with Werner Herzog at the helm. But what I really like about it is Christian Bale and Steve Zahn. He's a helicopter pilot. They get captured in Vietnam, and they're put in like a small, very kind of rudimentary prison camp in the jungle that they have to escape. And they eventually do. But what I like about the movie is that Werner Herzog insisted on filming in really remote, like gritty locations. So they'd go out in the woods with all the bugs, like through the bushes. Like they were kind of like run and gunning, like very kind of guerrilla style filmmaking. And I just like it. I mean, it's good. It has some like psychological moments. It's interestingly shot. It sort of fits the prison camp. Definitely fits that like genre. I just there's moments toward the end where they like start to go crazy and like hungry, and they're like escaping through the woods, and it just has that visceral feeling to it that I like. Like you're talking about, Ellie, like the way back. You feel like you're in the elements in that film. In this film, I really feel like I'm in the jungle, and there's mosquitoes and there's like branches slapping me in the face and stuff. So I like that gritty. I always like movies that take place in gritty, natural survival settings. If I was really like pushed against a wall and I had a choice, I think I would take those types of films over stories that are set in an urban environment any day, just because I love the natural element.
Me too.
But and that a lot of other good films. But so yeah, I would recommend it. I would give it a solid recommend. I think it's good. I don't think it's great, but it's an interesting film worthy of a watch, and it's well made. Summer 2006 came out.
Mhm.
Enjoyed it in the theater. Not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I did see that. I think I saw it in the theater back then. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting movie for Werner Herzog to make. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah,
It's just curious. Yeah.
and it's I was checking. It's available on Paramount Plus. It's on VOD, and if you have a Canopy account, you can watch it for free there. So it's a great way of watching free movies.
Nice.
All right, so my pick, and I kind of teased this earlier when we were talking about David Lean. My favorite David Lean movie is Bridge on the River Kwai. Came out in 1957, stars William Holden, Alec Guinness, and Jack Hawkins. This is my pick this week. I mentioned that Spielberg definitely was channeling David Lean, I feel. And I think that this film is one that I can most compare to Empire of the Sun. It's one of Lean's several masterpieces. His 1957 prisoner of war epic. Lean was known for his exquisite framing and composition. His visual artistry is in full display in this picture. It's about British prisoners of war who arrive in a Japanese prison camp during World War II. A colonel of the Japanese army informs the prisoners, which are led by William Holden, that they are forced to build a railway bridge that will connect Bangkok and Rangoon. Alec Guinness is incredible in this film. He won Best Actor. He in the 1958 Academy Awards for his role in this film. His performance as British officer Colonel Nicholson is layered. He's got lots of complexities. He transforms drastically from this disciplined man to someone who's obsessed with the assignment to build this bridge. And of course, no matter what age you are, you've heard the Colonel Bogey's March. It's the famous military march composed by, what was it? I think I wrote it down here. Lieutenant F.J. Ricketts. It's that whistling tune that you hear in the movie over and over. It's like the theme. It's been parodied many times as well. It's part of our zeitgeist. As a, there you go.
Yeah.
We probably don't have the copyright.
Yay.
As I mentioned, Guinness won Best Actor, but this film also won Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, Best Picture. So yeah, it's like I'm here recommending go out and check one of the greatest movies ever made, but it seems like a no-brainer. But also, this is a 66-year-old film, and it's a strong possibility that a lot of the younger generations out there haven't seen it. Great prison camp film, maybe the best of all time. Fans of The Great Escape are probably going to come after me now, but go see this film. It's streaming on Max, and you can watch it on VOD, but I love this film.
You know that David Lean was set to direct Empire of the Sun before Spielberg.
Yes, we should have mentioned that because
there's so many similarities. I can see why he'd love that project. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Fantastic. So those are our recommendations this week. We got some really good ones here. Great picks, everyone. All right, that is our show. But before we go, just want to say that this has been a lot of fun watching these Spielberg movies. We are going to continue with retrospectives, but we're not going to do a director retrospective for the month of October. We're going to change gears and do a movie franchise. It is October. We're getting into the Halloween season. We are going to watch the Exorcist franchise. And we're not going to watch the entire franchise because I think there's like 6 of them that have been released already, but we're going to watch the first 3 movies in the Exorcist franchise, Exorcist 1, 2, and 3. And then we're also going to review the David Gordon Green movie that's coming out on October 6th, I believe, The Exorcist or Exorcist Believer. I think I forget the title exactly. So we've got 4 Exorcist movies coming out that we're going to be discussing. I'm really excited for our first movie franchise retrospective. I went out on Amazon. I got the new 50th anniversary of The Exorcist in 4K Blu-rays coming tomorrow.
Woo!
I'm excited. I'm going to watch it this week.
It's going to be crisp quality.
no one in my household will watch it with me. I've never watched it by myself before. So we'll see.
Are they scared or are they not interested?
Both?
Yeah.
My 12-year-old refuses. I actually won't let her anyways. And
I will try to get through these 3 Exorcist movies. I can't promise I will.
I'm excited because, like, I mean, I know the first movie really well, but I don't think I've seen Exorcist 2 or 3. I really have no memory of it.
I have seen the second one. I'm not gonna mention anything about.
I'll read as much as I can from the tone of voice there. I deduce some things, but we'll find out later.
There are fans of the third one out there. There are. So, and I am actually looking forward to the one that's coming out.
I'm not a fan of Exorcist, period.
It's going to be.
We should do the Omen series next Halloween, or so. That's the Omen 2. I think is. I haven't seen that one either.
It's just 1 month, and then we move on to other fun things. All right. Come on,
fine.
We're doing this, film family. All right.
Nathan didn't tell you, but actually, for the next 6 months, we're creating a shrine for the movie Always. And instead of reviewing movies, we're just going to pay respects to Always, and we have to come up with songs about it. So. You have that to look forward to all the way to June 2024.
I'm done with that.
All right. All right. So that is the show, everyone. We thank you for tuning in this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. You can email us directly at backtotheframerate@gmail.com. Hit us up on Facebook and Instagram at Back to the Frame Rate. You can find past episodes of the show and other podcasts from the Weston Media Podcast Network on our website, and I'll drop a link in the show notes. And of course, the best way of helping us out is to share our episodes on your social media feeds. Spread the word. Thank you. That's it. The show is over. Goodbye.
Bye. Sam!
I want you to know it's over.